Hello, you multifarious, malt-motivated movies. It's a malt mention. And it's introducing Ralphie Review 1043. And before I go any further, a big malt mention thank you to In Whiskey Veritas for providing that malt mention moment. Yeah. So, welcome one and all. Welcome whiskey faithful, whiskey curious, whiskey adventurers, explorers, inquirers, researchers. And there is so much around whiskey. There is so much variety and diversity around whiskey. Not just Scotch whiskey, but global whiskey. There's all sorts of whiskey out there. And frankly, Maltmates, one of the things that we have to do when we are into whiskey is watch carefully how we spend our money. Now, in case you're wondering about these particular banknotes, you probably don't recognise them. They are in fact Manx or Isle of Man banknotes, because the Isle of Man, by permission of the Bank of England, and there's the little lovely picture in the back showing the Lady Isabella, also known as the Laxey Wheel. This is the £20 note. And unlike Bank of England notes, which are issued by the Governor of the Bank of England, Isle of Man notes are issued and underwritten by the government, and therefore this currency, this fiat currency, is underwritten by the national debt of the Isle of Man. Quite an interesting situation, that. And very few people actually know how to read the fine detail into banknotes and currency. And the one reason is that we're too busy earning the stuff and spending the stuff. And when we earn the stuff, we pay taxes. So basically, depending on what you're earning, you could earn, well, here's £100, but at least that is going in tax. And as soon as you start to have a higher income, that's going in tax. So that's what you've got left. But as soon as you start spending this, that goes on value-added tax, customs and excise duty, and, well, basically, you've got 40% of what you started with. So understanding practical economics is a very good way of, excuse the pun, sobering yourself up as to the true and relative quality of single malt Scotch whisky. This is why I'm reviewing this Scotch whisky for you now, because in my opinion, at this moment in time, the combination of price you're paying in relation to the quality of the delivery, we're not even reached the smell and taste yet, the quality of the delivery is very important. It is not for no reason that I have been reviewing 9 Deanstons over the course of my channel's lifetime. And in the last short period, and I'll tell you exactly, I've reviewed the 18-year-old Deanston 3 times in the last 4 years. Because it's a brand I'm coming back to and buying again, because when I bought it the previous time, I felt I was treated justly and honourably as a customer by the producer and the prices they were charging me. Right? If you want to buy a bottle of this now, it'll cost you £90. So what I'm telling you is you're getting an 18-year-old single malt in the UK. Now I've got to specify that and make that absolutely clear. In the UK, in the British Isles, in Britain, right? You're basically getting an 18-year-old integrity delivered official bottling single malt for less than £100. I shall draw some comparisons with other brand prices shortly in Ralphie Review 1043 Extras, where, I must warn you, I'll be having a bit of a rant. And you'll totally understand why when you hear what I have to say. Now let's get back to this. I last reviewed 18-year-old Deanston in Ralphie Review 932 in June of 2022. So that's just over 2 years ago. And I bought a bottle previously in 2020 and reviewed that in April 2020 under the title of Review 821. So if you want to see a timeline of periodic reviews of exactly the same brand with slightly different bottlings, because bottlings are never completely consistent, how the bottle's slightly changed, how my perception of it has slightly changed, we now have it in the archives. All you have to do is go to the search box on my channel and just put Deanston 18 and you will get a timeline of reviews. That doesn't happen, by the way, with many Scotch whisky brands. It really doesn't. But why am I coming back to this? Well, the nose is beautiful. I'll just start with that. What a beautiful nose. Unpeated, rich, barley sugar, soft gingers, ripe sultanas and raisins. Absolute banger, classic Highland, Southwest Highland signature single malt, which is off many people's radars because they think the big brands, right, must be that much better. Well, I'm here to tell you, as a seasoned old hack whisky reviewer, malt mates, that is absolute balderdash and gubbins. Some of the most beautiful sparkling quality single malts are to be found in what's called the humble brands. Humble brands like Isle of Arran, like the basic Ardnamurchans now, like Glencadam 10-year-old, still a classic. Or if you're looking for a peat monster, don't look any further than the Port Charlotte 10-year-old, which is superb value for the money in terms of the quality of whisky. It absolutely kicks Lagavulin and Ardbeg increasingly right into the brambles. It really does, because time changes, things change over time, and we notice the more time we have around whisky, the more changes we are observing. We are observing reputations being made, new brands arriving, and old complacent brands losing their reputation, losing their status, and importantly, losing our interest. And what's left of our hard-earned money? The 12-year-old is a really good place to start. Bottled at 46.3%, age statement, unchill filtered. It's what you call a consistently excellent entry-level, affordable single malt Scotch whisky with loads of character. It's not a big peat monster. It's not a sherry monster. It is, in fact, a traditional, old school, nicely developed single malt whisky. And I'm going to add something else. Deanston Distillery is a very attractive distillery. It's a converted mill. It's still got a water wheel, converting, creating, generating power from the River Dean that runs right past the distillery. It's an excellent day out for the family, although the kids won't be sipping any of the whisky. Of course not. Tut, tut, tut. The mere thought of such a thing. Shocking. But what they will do is they'll kind of kick a ball about in the park and have a shot in the swings or whatever's handy, while mum and dad, mum or dad, go on the tour. It's an excellent tour. They have the warehouses at Deanston Distillery, and furthermore, they're not blowing the arse out the prices that they're charging in the distillery shop, which to me is quite an important reason to actually visit the distillery. I will find myself going there again someday before too long. Right, what have we got here? As I've mentioned, rich on the nose, because the alcoholic strength is higher, and importantly, it's not been chill filtered. It says so. It says non-chill filtered and aged in first fill bourbon casks, and not just any old bourbon casks. We're talking competent bourbon casks. professional standard bourbon casks, which another reason why they haven't needed to chill filter and reduce the strength to 40% to disguise the fact that they're using cheap inferior casks for maturation. Now, I'm sure you're aware of that little trick that some distilleries play on their customers. Hey, I'm sure you're aware of it. If you want verification, just ask an experienced maltmate or at your local whisky club. You'll soon find out. There's one little thing that I've picked up on here, though, that I want to bring to your attention. And it's simply on the back of the container. It's stating natural ingredients, right? Water, malted barley, yeast. I find that peculiar. Why are they saying natural ingredients instead of ingredients? Because we presume that all the ingredients in whisky are natural, don't we? Yeast is natural, water's natural, and malted barley is pretty natural. Even the residue of cask, which has been absorbed into the whisky and should be added as an ingredient, it should be stated, because it is an ingredient, otherwise the spirit would be clear. Clear as water. It's an ingredient, and it's fairly natural. But I tell you what isn't natural. Caramel E150A. That is not naturally. That is not a natural product because it is made industrially in a chemical factory using an alkaline and acid rebalancing process. Right, look it up for yourself and just find out what caramel really is. Then you'll understand the damage it does to single malts. So I'm wondering if they're using a technicality here. I'm not quite sure, but I'm tell you what, see, for the price, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's taste this. As soon as you taste it, you get a disarming clarity of flavour. There is no one ingredient dominating. You can clearly see the vanilla component and a dry tannic oak component coming from the casks. But you also got something slightly floral and delicate, which is in contrast to the initial impression you get from the nose. So already we're getting quite a sophisticated single malt for its age, and that's all good. This is what we're looking for. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, that's 5 millilitres, of water to this whisky, and I'm going to leave it for a few minutes before I add any more, because particularly with older whiskies, particularly with more developed, matured whiskies, we need to add our water drop by drop, incrementally over time, to avoid flooding and neutralising the whisky. It's not as if you can just top up with some more whisky out of the bottle to rectify it. It just doesn't work that way, malt mates. It's just not the way it goes. You get the cultivation of a dram. I'm going to do an extras about this. How to really cultivate your dram to get the maximum experience. As to how much water you choose to add, that, frankly, is your decision. When you see me in the bothy adding much more water than you would add to a whisky, it is because I'm treating it like a master blender treats the blend assessment. They really bring the strength down to get into the detail and the subtleties, which are masked by the higher alcoholic strength. So I've given it a couple of minutes now. We're getting a little touch, not a lot, but it is developing now. It's quite a warm day, which explains the slow development and appearance of Scotch mist. But it's coming along now. It's definitely, I confirm, this has been non-chill filtered, as a result of which we're getting a bigger mouthfeel. We're getting more flavour. We're getting more sensation intensity, which, if it's chill filtered, they just get bleached out. Chill filtration is a form of sanitizing and bleaching. In blends, it's fine because blends are blends. But in single malts, In my opinion, it is utterly unacceptable for any brand to do that. And the best way to know if they have done it is to look at the bottling strength. If it's 40 or 43%, you can safely presume it's been chill filtered, and quite brutally. The bigger the brand, the harsher the chill filtering. The more they sanitise to homogenise the experience of the brand, which might be compromised by the smell and taste of the product. I'm not making this up, by the way. Check it out with someone who's experienced. They'll confirm what I'm saying here. This is stuff you really need to know, maltmates. That's why I'm sharing it. Because I want you to continue to be interested in buying whisky. It's important to me. I know a lot of people that work in the whisky industry. And at the moment, a few of them are nodding their heads in disbelief at some of the prices that their employer is asking for the product. It doesn't measure up. It doesn't add up. But I'll come to that shortly in Ralphie Review 1043 Extras when I'm having a bit of a rant. Let's get back to this now. Now that we can clearly see the Scotch mist appearing in the glass. Nose. A little bit more complex grain, so we're getting that cereal note. I'm noticing even on the nose there's a granularity, a slight sour and bitter, so we're getting grain complexity. I tell you what, I would be fascinated to see what Deanston would do with a series of local barley or indigenous barley or single variety barley bottlings. I think Deanston's the sort of distillery that could showcase these beautifully. Taste. Big honey notes. A naturally sweet, soft sour malt with super ripe sultanas, mild ginger, soft pineapple chunks, slight confectionery pineapple, confectionery banana, confectionery sour and green apple. It's all there. It's complex. It's homogenized. It's immediately indicating after 10-15 minutes and a drop of water what a truly complex and rounded quality single malt this is. I am very happy with it. I'm glad I bought it. Going to add a drop more water, right? Another 5 millilitres, because we don't add it all at once. And now you can clearly see the Scotch mist confirming the quality of my descriptor. If this whisky was bottled at 43% and remained clear after adding water, in my opinion, it is denatured and castrated by the chill filtration process, which is designed to remove any awkward little inferior maturation results that can happen to a whisky when you're not investing enough money in your casks. Hence the reason some brands get more and more dependent on hyperbolic brand awareness through their larger-than-life and slightly hyperactive brand ambassadors who are no more than sales personnel at the end of the day. Bless them. They're lovely people. If there was one single job in the whisky industry I would least want to do, it would be a whisky sales and brand ambassador, because you can never sell enough for your employer, no matter what. You're just constantly targets. And even worse when you're actually isolated and ostracised from the production process. And you're left standing delivering this stock trade narrative to an increasingly informed bunch of folk in whatever country you happen to be in. And they've heard it all before. And they believe you're being fake and disingenuous. And even though they've had a few drinks of whisky, they're too polite to actually say it to your face. Am I right? Tell me if I'm wrong. One final taste before the malt mark. This is a whiskey, unpeated, that's not afraid to show positive but balanced sensation range. The sweet, the sour. The sweet and sour dominates. But there's bitterness in with the sour. It just brushes the middle of your tongue, and this gives a whole additional dimension to what is probably, arguably, one of the best value 18-year-old single malts you can buy in the UK at this moment in time. Obviously, I'm highly recommending it. It's a banger. It's 86 out of 100. And that is rather a juicy malt mark. I tell you what, malt mates, I'll see you soon for Ralphie Review 1043 Extras. I do recommend before you watch it, you have a couple of drams. And you put your seatbelt on, because I'm not going to be pulling any punches. And it's going to get, without getting nasty, it is going to get slightly angry. See you soon.